Hello.
Good evening, everyone.
How you all doing? I forgot they don't answer back, do they? But people do type in, and look, we've had quite a few already.
We have.
Sude, ahoy there. Dougie McKinns, shiver my timbers. Dougie, I hope you're not going to be trouble, mate. Shit, mate. Linda Boyce says hi, Stephen and Paul.
Hi,
and
Linda.
Jackie Draper says hi, looking forward to this evening. Well, look, Linda and Jackie, we can see your comments this week. I think we explained why that was happening last week. And then our lovely Marianne Boucher from the west coast of Canada for a weekly lunchtime menu of shanties. Thank you very much, Marianne. Brilliant.
Don't give you too much to bite off and chew. Well, Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 17th Shanty Sessions lockdown broadcast from the Rogue Shanty Chorus. This is number 17. Now, the Rogue Shanty Chorus, we are an authentic fishing choir. We're based in Lowestoft. And for those that don't know, Lowestoft is the most easterly town in the UK. And what we do is we celebrate the music of fishermen and seafaring communities, singing sea shanties and maritime-themed songs as part of a wider cultural creative arts project called the Unique Coastal Cultural and Musical Heritage of Waveney, and this celebrates the associated heritage of the fishing industry in North Suffolk.
Yes, it does.
Yes, I do, Bowie.
Are you expecting me to do something there?
Well, you interjected, so
I suppose. Well, look, for several weeks now, we've been also broadcasting on YouTube, and I know a lot of people do it the other way around. They start off on YouTube because it's a lot easier, and they then kind of add on to Facebook, which is a bit more difficult. We've done it this way around because we had a big kind of, I don't want to say the word following, but we had a lot of people who used our page already to find out about news and information. And we seem to accrue a lot more since we've been doing these virtual rehearsals or broadcasts or live streams. But we know that not everybody either is on Facebook or gets on particularly well with Facebook, and so we added the YouTube channel. So you're very welcome to tune in from either of those locations, and if you comment on either of those, we can see them both. We also cross-post to a couple of our other Facebook pages, the Voice Cloud, which is a not-for-profit organisation that Paul and I run, and the Rogue Shanty Boys, which is our own separate professional shanty crew. Both of those are now displaying the live stream, and we don't see comments on those two Facebook pages. So if you want to have a comment seen and replied to and thrown on screen, you have to do it on Rogue Shanty Chorus or YouTube. So there you go.
And we really do value those comments. We love to know you're out there, as we know of Michelle Gallagher. She says, evening, everyone. And of course, our good friend from Poland, Kasia Marcinkowska, she says, hi, everyone. Well, hi, Kasia. But we love to see those comments and know that you're out there. What we also love to see is that you're sharing our post to all of your friends, families, enemies, neighbors, and loved ones. And that's exactly what somebody did. It looks like they're in Denmark, and it's a page called The Stugers.
Ooh.
I wonder what that means in Danish.
Yeah, maybe some Danish person will tell us.
Maybe they will. Hopefully, some of that country are tuning in, and if they are, do say hello to our sister Deborah.
Yeah.
Now, what they said was "voor die liefhebbers." Now, that seems to be for the lovers, and I think what they mean is for people that love sea shanties, and hopefully they don't mean, you'd really have to love sea shanties to like this.
Yeah, brilliant. And on that note, we know we get a lot of people from various places all around the world, which is absolutely lovely, as well as particularly our beloved East Anglia, but much further afield as well. And if you're with us for the first time tonight, let us know where you're from, won't you? Whether it's Lowestoft or East Anglia or further afield or Scotland or Canada or Germany or anywhere, let us know, won't you, please? Give us a little comment. Do.
Stephen, I'm going to be posing a question to all our lovely viewers, but in the meantime, how about our regular slot of How You Heard It, Bowie?
How You Heard It, Bowie. Okay.
Yeah. Well, now we've got a fantastic and fascinating and interesting book called Suffolk Words and Phrases. Stephen's going to display that. There we are. Now, this is by Edward Moore.
That's the high-tech way to display it, and this is the low-tech way, just to prove that we actually own a copy.
Yeah, just to prove that we own a book.
Yeah, and we can read.
So, as we said, this is called How You Heard It, Bowie. Yeah,
so I'm actually going to just read a little bit about, because we have a few messages from people saying, is the book in print? I don't think it is. You might still be able to get a copy, though. Can you tell us a bit more about it? And I suppose we should, really, because it's a wonderful book. And in terms of like social social linguistics. It's considered quite a masterpiece, really. I'm going to read this from inside the book jacket. Edward Moore was the author, and inside the book jacket, I mean, this was written by his publishers, so I guess they're going to big him up. But it says, returning to his home from 20 years service in India, Edward Moore was forcibly struck by the provincialisms of his native county of Suffolk. His collection, first published in 1823, was one of the earliest studies of an English dialect. Over 2,500 words in use at the time are recorded here. And then we fast forward slightly. The coincidence of Scottish and Suffolk words is of special interest, as is the frequency with which Suffolk usage appears in Shakespeare, which we have referenced before. But anyway, enough of that. What we actually do is we pick a word at random from this book. Now, what Edward Moore did in 1823 was printed a lot of words which were peculiar or well used in Suffolk. So not necessarily only used in Suffolk, but quite probably likely to have been. And we deliberately choose one each week that is not in use now. And we ask you to have a guess at what it might be. And this week, the word is teent, like tent, but with an extra E. Teent. So let us know what you think that might be. Funny, serious, have a guess, whatever you like. Just don't use Google and don't cheat, and you don't win anything either. So unfortunately.
But not to worry. Now, we also like to pose a question. It tends to be a lockdown related question, but this week it won't be. It's a very much more a shanty related question. And what we would like to know is, what's your favorite line from any shanty? That could be something that's a little bit risque. It could be something that's basically derogatory to the captain. They usually were. It could be just a line that perhaps if you're one of our regular rogues, you get to sing that as a solo. That's absolutely fine. If there's a line in a shanty that you love, tell us about it. We'd really love to hear. Pop it in the message and pop it in the comments section on Facebook and let us know so that we can read it out. In the meantime, somebody who's done just that, but for a different reason, is Janice Marjoram. She's put in that comment section, evening all.
Yeah,
and also Dougie McInnes. He's from Inverness, but live in Derby. I hosted
live in Derby.
I hosted a Kaylee in Kessingland last year. Well, good for you.
International jet setter. I think that means, but he lives in Derby. Yeah. There you go. So Dougie says, most from the good ship Venus, the one about the dogs. I know what you mean, Dougie. Yeah. the good ship anything. Anyway,
boys, she's had a stab at that Suffolk word or phrase. Yeah. She says it's teent, actually tint, which means isn't. So
good guess, Linda. Giving nothing away at this stage, but good guess.
I like it. Stephen, have you got a song you'd like to sing us?
Well, funnily enough, I have hid.
You have hid.
Yeah. Now I'm going to do you a song called Leave Her Johnny. Doesn't need a lot of introduction, but nevertheless, I'm going to give it one. For anyone who follows the Roud Folk Index, it's Roud 354, Roud 354, and the version that we get, or certainly the lyrical and the melodic arrangement, is from this book by Stan Hugel. And Stan Hugel doesn't need much introduction, and for once, I'm not going to give him one. But he's the Welsh shanty man, and who was the world authority. Go on.
Here he is, Stan Hugel.
And we've got this wonderful little section in there about Leave Her Johnny. And it's quite a unique song in that it was known as a paying off shanty. And there aren't many paying off shanties. It was used either to warp the ship through the lock gates by means of the capstan, or to man the pumps for the last time before the crew was paid off. So when the ship was actually on the high seas, any refusal of duty or back talk would be punished in quite a heavy, kind of draconian manner. But there was this kind of unwritten law or rule that allowed sailors to air their thoughts and their feelings, often through song, during the paying off, or when the ship was in the final the pumps of the final, just before all the men went. And this is it. So Leave Her Johnny, and let's bring up some lyrics, and then I'll get my
While
guitar.
you do that, I'm going to say hello back to Chloe Schneider. She says, evening, everyone. And also to the Woods household, courtesy of Janet Woods. She says, hello from the Woods household. Hello back to you, Janet. Hope David's well and hope you are too. Oh, Karen Reed. Hello, Janet. See you tomorrow. She's having a private little conversation. Now, Karen Reed is the manager of our beloved Seagull Theatre. That's where we normally meet on a Tuesday evening with our lovely bunch of rogues, the chorus. And she's doing a fabulous job, even through lockdown, or especially through lockdown. If you haven't heard of the Seagull Theatre in Lowestoft, do look them up on Facebook and the internet in general. Give them a like, give them a follow. Give them whatever you can, really, because it's a hard time for theatres. Anyway, Leave a Johnny, sung by Stephen. Take it away, mate.
All the time her heart and the wages low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. And the grub was bad and the gales did blow. And it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her. There's no more voyages around Cape Horn. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. We know the weather's never warm, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Won't you leave her, Johnny, leave her? For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her. The old man swears and the mate swears too. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. The crew all swears and so would you. And it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her. I thought I heard the old man say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. You can go ashore and take your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her. We ate rotten meats and evil bread. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. And it was plumb poor drown, the old man said. And it's time for us to leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her. She will not wear nor steer nor stay. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Her sails and gear all carried away, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds do blow. It's time for us to leave her.
Very nice indeed. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Oh, I think I missed a few verses, didn't I?
Do you know what? As usual, I was listening intently, but I didn't spot any.
Do you know what? Apologies if you're expecting to sing a few more verses. I know a slightly different version that finishes early, and I did that one. Hey ho, never mind.
Sounds good. Anyway, in the meantime, Rosemary Balkett, she has wondered if the word "teent" means also, she says, ain't, as we've already heard, or tea in it.
Tea in it.
Tea in it, which could be right, could be either. Yeah, as we said, exactly. We're not giving any away.
Now, fortunately, see, we've launched our question, so everybody should see this question. What's your favourite line from any sea shanty? And it comes up in the thread. And we can't bring on screen anyone who answers those comments, although we can see them just because of the technology of Facebook. And Fortunately, Barry Irwin's comment can't be featured on screen. I know the song you're referring to, Barry. It's a great song. But if, anyway, we can feature this one from Marion. One of my favourite lines is from the Wild Goose Shanty. I said, "Me pretty maid, how are you this morning?" She said, "None the better for the seeing of you." I don't actually know that one, Marion, but I'm going to check it out. Thank you. Yeah,
we are now. Yeah, Stephen,
absolutely.
Plugged in with your mixer.
Do you know what? I'm going to check this.
Anyway, while you're checking that, I'm going to say
hello
back. No, I knew you weren't. I'm going to say hello back to Monica Manning. Stephen's going to get his mixer sorted out, and I'm going to play you.
Now.
Yeah, it's a little bit quiet. I'm going to play you a song called "Drop of Nelson's Blood." Now, as usual, we like to give you a little bit of historical context. We certainly like to tell you that this is Roud Index 3632. It's also in Dorflinger's Index. It's number 49, the Ballad Index. Now, we spoke about this recently. Now, it would have started as a gospel song, started life about rolling the old chariot along. And it became a drop of Nelson's blood for the sailors. And the reason is, so the story goes, when Nelson was shot by that French sniper from up in the hoops and assassinated, he lost his life, and the sailors around him were very keen to get him back to Blighty to have a hero's funeral after his death. They were posed with a bit of a conundrum because they were a long, long way away, and it was a long sail, and they feared that the body would decompose. So they devised a plan to store him in a barrel of grog, and in the hope that the alcohol would preserve his body and that he would be able to get home in a good state, albeit dead, and people would be able to receive him for his funeral in that hero's welcome. So far, so good. Unfortunately, it's said that the sailors were so indebted to their hero, Lord Admiral Nelson, that what they wanted was to imbibe themselves with a little bit of his spirit and his courage and his fight. So what they would do is they would sneak past the guards that were on duty, and they would draw down just a little tot of the grog that was inside the barrel, hoping that some of Nelson's spirit, and I use that word advisedly, would flow through in the grog and into them.
That's gross.
Say again?
That's gross. That's absolutely gross.
Sounds disgusting, doesn't it?
But like that.
Maybe it worked. Anyway, we're not entirely sure if that's true or not, but what a great story and what a great song. This one is called A Drop of Nelson's Blood. Please sing along with it at home. I know you know it, probably better than I do. And a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm. And a drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm. A drop of Nelson's blood wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. A plate of Irish stew wouldn't do us any harm, and a plate of Irish stew wouldn't do us any harm. A plate of Irish stew wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And a good run ashore wouldn't do us any harm, and a good run ashore wouldn't do us any harm. A good run ashore wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And a big fat bosun wouldn't do us any harm, and a big fat bosun wouldn't do us any harm. A big fat bosun wouldn't do us any harm, and we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we'll roll the old chariot along, we'll roll the old chariot along. We're gonna roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And if you want to do it, don't you do it again the wall. And if you want to do it, don't you do it again the wall. Yeah, if you want to do it, don't you do it again the wall. And we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we're gonna roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. And a pint from the landlord wouldn't do us any harm. And a pint from the landlord wouldn't do us any harm. A pint from the landlord wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we're gonna roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind. Come on, we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We're gonna roll the old chariot along, and we'll all hang on behind.
Got there, lovely. Very nice, very nice. Okay. So, yeah, I had a lovely comment here, actually, from Bill Kitchen. Hiya from Brightlingsea. When a primary teacher, the children love singing Nelson's Blood in assembly with appropriate actions. And you know what? We can attest to that because we've done quite a few school workshops.
And also because we love singing it with actions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We love teaching it to young people, and we've done a lot of primary schools in particular, and they seem very kind of well received to that song, even the way Paul plays it. Absolutely. Marion Bashert says, "Re Nelson's Blood. My mostly female shanty crew used to sing 'A Sailor in the Arms Wouldn't Do Me Any Harm.' How about that?" And she also gave 3 claps.
There you go.
Well, so we have coming up a very special guest. Paul can tell you a bit more about him, as Richard says. The Reverend Albert Cadmore, and he is chaplain to not just RNLI Gorleston, although that's why we've invited him onto our stream to talk about the work he does with RNLI Gorleston and the kind of the difficulties, I guess, that they faced through lockdown and being able to socially distance and rescue somebody out at sea, and for him to minister to them people. But he's also the chaplain of Norwich City Football Club. A very interesting guy. He's an ex-teacher, Paul, is that correct?
A retired head teacher, in fact.
Retired head teacher. Oh, there you go. Well, look, okay. Well, look, we're going to find, there's no need for me to tell you all that because we can unpick it all when he comes on. And he's coming up fairly soon.
Fairly soon, so stay tuned.
I wonder if I could do a song now.
I think you probably could.
So last session, we had a comment from, I think it was Carly. I could be wrong. I think it was Carly saying, "Can you do Fisherman's Wife?" I love that song.
It was Carly, yeah.
It was Carly. Okay, well, I don't even know if Carly's watching this week, but Carly, we're going to do it anyway. If you're not watching, I'm not going to do it again, so you have to look on Watch Again. But, you know, believe it or not, we actually plan what goes into these sessions.
Oh, we script it.
Absolutely. It's tightly scripted, tightly prepared, and we do not veer off course, not one iota. And so when you say, "Can you do a song?" that's fine, but only if we were planning already to do it. So I couldn't then put it in, but I'm going to do it this session for you. And this is a wonderful, wonderful song, and it's from this book called "The Sang's the Thing," which is a Scottish song collection or archival book by a lady called Sheila Douglas. I think it was printed in the 70s, but it actually pertains to songs much older. Sheila Douglas, and it's voices from Lowland Scotland. That's where we found the song. And the reason we were actually doing that was we were looking for a song that was an authentic fisherman's wife song, because we do within our shanty chorus a song called, I'm going to forget what
Who Would Be a Fisherman's Wife?
No, this is it. This is Who Would Be a Fisherman's Wife. What's the Ewan McCall one?
Oh, the Scottish Fisher Lassie song.
Yeah, come out, you fish it, come out.
Yeah.
lassies, come a while with me. Yeah, and it's kind of generally perceived, as is often the case, that was a traditional song, and it kind of was. It's based on a much older song, or the melody is at least, called the Hella Benachie, or the Hill of Benachie from Scotland, and it's a traditional Scottish melody or air, and that was used as the melody by Ewan MacColl when they did the radio ballads in the 70s radio ballads, Paul?
Yes. Oh, I wish we'd checked that script out. Was it? I
can bring that script. It's on my shelf, so I'll look for it. But Ewan MacColl was looking for a bit more content that would kind of introduce segments of the show, and so he kind of wrote this to sound like a traditional song. And as these things go, it's generally kind of been perceived that it always was a traditional song. But he wrote it, and we love the song, and some of our ladies in our shanty choir do it. But we were on the hunt for an authentic fisherman's wife song, or certainly a song from the female perspective of what they do when the men are off lording it up out at sea. And we found this lovely song, and it's called The Fisherman's Wife. It's also known as the Peterhead Fisherman's Wife, or Who Would Be a Fisherman's Wife. And there's another wonderful traditional Scottish song about the view from the ladies who did all the work when the men were off at sea fishing. There's another wonderful song called the Gutting Quine, and quine actually was a Scottish dialect term for girls. We had a lot of Scottish people come down actually, and if you're local to Lowestoft, I guess if you're local to Lowestoft, you might not know that anyway, but a lot of people do know that, and they used to come down following the herring. So they used to come down during the herring season, and they were chasing the herring around the country. So they would come down in herring season, which was kind of October, November, and the women particularly were very well known, kind of notorious really for how quickly they could gut and cure the herring. They would often work in threes, and they would lodge with people in Lowestoft, on the old beach village, or anywhere they could really, and they would work very hard, well known, very fondly thought of within the town, and often they would come down with the men who would actually go fishing for the herring as well. And so we kind of assume that this might have been a song that they would have brought down with them to East Anglia. But even if it wasn't, it certainly was sung on the Moray Firth, around Peterhead in particular. In this book here, Sheila Douglas, she talks about a guy called Frank Duthie, who she recorded it from a little village called Findocty in Peterhead. And he sung it and was recorded singing it to her in the late 50s. And he states that he actually... Go on, Paul.
Just before you start the song, give me a nod.
Yeah, okay. So he states that he learned it from his father, but he also knew that it was based on a much older rhyme that was known among fishing communities along the Moray Firth or the coast. And anyway, this is so this is The Fisherman's Wife. If you want to sing along home, we're going to share the lyrics as we can. But Paul, this is my nod.
Thank you, Stephen. I hate to interrupt you in full flow. However, we've just been joined by Carly Franklin and Carol Fisher, and I thought that was an exciting moment because, Carly, this song is by special request from yourself, I believe. Stephen put this in especially tonight, although we weren't able to pop it in before. This is just for you. And talking about Scottish Fisher Lassies, this is a really good moment to hark back to our lovely Rogue Shanty Chorus. Now, we are blessed to have a big group of fine singers, fine shanty singers, but within that, we're also saddened and touched to have lost a few along the way, and one such is the wonderful Delia, who was a member of our shanty chorus right from the beginning, from its inception, and she loved it, and she came along every week, and she just beamed from ear to ear, and she made it a real delight, as do many people in our group. Unfortunately, Delia is no longer with us, but she was a genuine Scottish Fisher lassie, and she could gut a herring pretty well. We found a lot of research out, but the blanks that we couldn't fill in, she filled in for us. So perhaps we'll dedicate this one to Delia.
Yeah, if you're up there, bless you. Here we go. Who would be a fisherman's wife to work with a tub and a scrubber and a knife, a diet out fire and a painful bed, and away to the fish in the morning? Here we come pouring in, 3 reefs to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, but still we're all teetotalers. It's down to the Deans in the middle of the night, with an oat syrup tin and a candle for a light, to gather up the pillars, every one of them in sight, so we'll get the line baited for the morning. Here we come pouring in, 3 reefs to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, but still we're all teetotalers. My poor old father's in the middle of the floor, beating hooks on the tippets and they're hanging on his chair. They're made from horse's hair, for that's the best gear to be going to the fishing in the morning. Here we come pouring in, 3 reefs to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, but still we're all teetotalers. It's easy for the cobbler sitting in his nook, his big copper kettle hanging on a crook, but we're in the bar and we cannot get a look. It's all hard work in the morning. Here we come pouring in, 3 weeks to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, but still we're all teetotalers. It's not the kind of girl a girl general could endure. Fingers red and raw with a scrubbing out of chore, and a baby on her hip. She's away to carry coal. She'll be getting up early in the morning. Here we come pouring in, 3 reefs to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, but still we're all teetotalers. Who would be a fisherman's wife to work with a tub and a scrubber and a knife, a diet out fire and a painful bed, and away to the fish in the morning? Here we come pouring in, 3 reefs to the foresail in. There's not a dry stitch to put on our back, still we're all teetotalers. Still we're all teetotalers. Still we're all teetotalers.
Excellent. Michelle Gallagher gives you 4 rounds of applause. I do as well, because I happen to know that song is a beast. It's very easy to get caught up in the tempo of that and to race ahead, and before you know it, you're trying to skip, and it's very tricky. But Stephen does that particularly well. He's great with his tempos. Carly Franklin says, "I'm singing along." Michelle Gallagher loves this song. Carly Franklin also says, "Yes, I love this song. Thank you." Now,
Janet Woods, happy memories.
Oh yeah, Janet Woods. Well,
Janet, absolutely.
Thank you, Janet, and thank you for the flag that honours our fallen shanty singers. They may be gone from us, but they're certainly not forgotten, and we honour them during performances, and obviously tonight. So thank you for that, Janet. In the meantime, Janice Marjoram, she says Bella Hardy has a super song called "The Herring Girl." Yep, I think I've heard that one, Janice, but I'll certainly look it up again. Carol Fisher says, "Hi, sorry I'm late. We should have been at the beach tonight, hopefully next year." Now, she's absolutely right, of course. It's certainly not a problem that you're late, Carol. We just love that you're here with us, and we love to receive your comments. So thank you very much. But she's absolutely right in that we should have been at the beach every summer, just before we break up for summer. What we do is, as our group of rogues, we meet up at a beach hut down on the beach, funnily enough, and it tends to be Carol's because she's the only one that offered it. So thank you very much for that, Carol. It is gutting that we can't be there tonight. But yeah, we'll just concentrate on getting back to it as soon as possible. Now, as I mentioned, Stephen sang that song in honour of the lovely Delia McLean. She was such a character, a really, really wonderful, smiley, lovely person, and a great singer too. And she was our very own Scottish Fisher lassie. Now, there's a beautiful poem that accompanies Delia, and what we're going to do is bring it to you next week. Just because it is such a lovely thing, written by her son-in-law in tribute to her. So we'll bring you that next week. In the meantime, Kasia Marcinkowska says, "One of my favourite lines is, 'It's not the leaving of Liverpool that grieves me, but my darling when I think of thee.'" And she's right. That is beautiful. But it's probably not because of the line itself, but because Leaving of Liverpool is traditionally sung at the end of every sea shanty festival in Poland, and there are more than a dozen, by all performances and audiences together. So I have so many great memories with this line and singing it at the top of my lungs so many times. That really evokes a lovely picture, Cassia. So thank you very much for that. And it's great that you've got so many festivals, and it would be even greater if you booked us to come and somehow come and be part of that festival. We would love to travel to Poland and sing our mix of sea shanties.
She shanties, yes, we absolutely would. Yeah. So have you got a song for us, Paul?
I have, yeah. I'm hoping we'll be joined by Albert Cadmore very soon. Now, Albert, as we've said earlier, is our special guest this evening. He is, in fact, the chaplain to the RNLI Gorleston station. And he's going to chat to us a little bit about life in lockdown for the station and the crew and how it's affected them with the coronavirus epidemic and things that they can and can't do now as a result of that. He wears many hats. He was the chaplain to Norwich City Football Club for a long time. So if you're fans of Norwich City, don't blame him for any losses that they might have incurred along the way, and I'm sure there's a few. But as I said, lots of other hats. In the meantime, what I'd like to give you is one of our newer songs on the repertoire to our Rogue Shanty Chorus. This is called Whiskey Johnny.
See if you can count how many times the word whiskey comes up.
And see if you can also count how many times I mispronounce it. Whiskey.
Yeah, okay, Sean Connery. Money Penny.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Let's get you some lyrics up so people can sing along.
Yeah, and we do want to know that you're singing along. Now, we were very lucky to have Carly Franklin singing along on that last one, and it was especially for her, so I'm glad she did. But if you're singing along as well, we'd love to know about it. Whiskey Johnny. Whiskey is the life of man, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey where I can. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey here and whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny. Whiskey made me pawn my clothes, whiskey Johnny, and whiskey gave me this red nose. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh, whiskey here and whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny. I'll drink it hot, I'll drink it cold, whiskey Johnny. I'll drink it new, I'll drink it old. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh, whiskey here and whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey killed my poor old dad, whiskey Johnny, and whiskey drove me mother mad. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey here and whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Some like whiskey, some like beer, whiskey Johnny. I wish I had a barrel here. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey Johnny, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny. Whiskey killed my sister Sue, whiskey Johnny, and whiskey killed my brother too. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey here, whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey up and whiskey down, whiskey Johnny. Oh, whiskey all around the town. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey here, whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Champagne's good and rum is free, whiskey Johnny, but whiskey's good enough for me. Whiskey for my Johnny, oh. Whiskey here and whiskey there, whiskey Johnny. Oh, I'll get whiskey everywhere. Whiskey for my Johnny. So if you're not too sure of what the title of that song was. It was, in fact, Whiskey Johnny. Now,
Hey up.
Yeah, hey up. I'm a little bit slightly embarrassed in that we're about to be joined, but not quite yet, by Albert Cadmore. And I'm slightly concerned that he might think this is all about drinking and not all about singing. But it is, I can assure you, Albert, and I can assure everybody else that this is a legitimate shanty broadcast, and it's not just about singing songs about whiskey.
The theme is maritime. That's what we always say, isn't it? Now, I want to pick up a comment from Gina Dunlop, and Dunlap. Sorry, Gina says, I was in a sea music group called Shipping News. We did a different version of Fisherman's Wife. The CD is called Wives' Tales. Now, Gina, I'd love to know where you're based, and if there's any version out there, if it's on YouTube or something, would you message the page with a link? That would be absolutely lovely if you could do that. If not, no problem. Anyway,
no problem.
And look, Chloe Schneider, I don't know if it's just me. It's not Chloe. I was just going to say this, but when you say a word over and over, it starts to sound weird. It's like this song, the amount of times you say whiskey. Absolutely.
Hang on. Is she saying that when I say a word over and over, it starts to sound weird?
I think what she's saying is when she drinks whiskey over and over, the word whiskey starts to sound weird. Look, message from Martha Knox Forrester. Hi, everyone. Good to sing tonight. Thank you very much. And then Linda Crystal Young. I'm sing along from New Haven, CT.
Wonderful.
I've been missing my usual group, the Jovial crew from Essex, CT. Yeah, well, thanks for joining us, Linda. Is it your first time? We'd love to know. If it is, you're very, very welcome. And you can either, if you haven't caught us from the beginning, you can either rewind or you can watch again any bits that you missed.
Yeah, you can watch again 17, because this is the 17th edition. Linda, would you please give us a shout out to the Jovial crew? Maybe include a little link if they have a page in the comments so that we can have a good look, and all of our followers can say hello to all of yours.
Now,
anyway,
before we bring in Albert, I just want to go back to our book that we use every time, and it's a book based on our beloved Suffolk, which is where we are, or certainly where we come from, and where our shanty chorus is based. And it's called Suffolk Words and Phrases by a guy called Edward Moore. That's the low-tech way of doing it, or this is the high-tech. It's printed originally in 1823, and it was considered at the time to be one of the earliest studies of an English dialect. And each week, at random, we pick a word which we don't believe is still in kind of common parlance, as they say. And this week's word, as Paul just displayed, was teent. Teent. And we ask you to guess what it is. You can have a laugh or you can have a serious guess, but don't cheat and you don't win anything. So basically it's a rubbish competition. But have a go anyway. We've had a few guesses already, and they've been quite fun. And they've been good guesses, but we're not telling you whether you're close or not. Keep guessing, and towards the end, we always tell you what it is. And look, I'm just going to bring up one more comment, and that's Linda Crystal Young. Yes, first time, thanks. Oh, well, big welcome to you, Linda. We're not so welcoming second time, just the first time.
Anyway, without further ado, our special guest this evening is Reverend Albert Cadmore. We're going to say hello to him right now.
Hi there, it's good to be with you. Oh. I heard you singing about the whiskey, and I thought, so often in a Zoom meeting, I've got a coffee beside me. I thought I should have brought a glass up with me tonight.
Yeah, but just a coffee, not an Irish one.
All right, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Albert. It's a real pleasure to have you on board, if you pardon the pun.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Now we've invited you on in your capacity as the chaplain to RNLI, the Gorleston station.
Yeah, well, I wear a few hats with the RNLI because I am the chaplain. I've been chaplain there for, well, it's just over 30 years now. Really? But I'm also the chairman of the management group at the Gorleston Lifeboat. And I'm also an education volunteer. I go into schools, take the RNLI message out there. Water safety is the main theme, of course. Yeah.
And schools are second homes to you, I imagine, being a retired... were you a headmaster?
I was a senior teacher. I ran the Key Stage 4, the years 10 and 11. I was head of upper school there at Stalham High, 22 years. But wonderful. I've been retired 15 years, so it seems a long while ago, but sometimes seems like yesterday. Yeah,
I'm sure. Yeah, it's a good job you are retired from that. Otherwise, how would you fit in all of your other duties?
I know.
That you spend your time with?
Yeah. Well, that is the thing. People often say, I don't know how I found time to work. Well, I knew that there were lots of things I wanted to do, plans I had I wanted to fulfill, and I've been able to do them in retirement. And it was always part of my plan to get quite active in retirement.
Wonderful. Well, good for you. And obviously, you're doing some fabulous work. With a few charities as well, but obviously with RNLI Gorleston.
Yeah, well, it's like a family. It's an old sort of often used phrase, but it really is. You build such a repartee and camaraderie that it is very much like being part of a family. And I know for the crew, I would say probably even more so, because on occasions, of course, their lives are in each other's hands. Not very often, but they can be. And they're so dependent on one another and get very close. Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. And obviously other people's lives would go
absolutely
are in their hands, and only by working as a team and being cohesive can they effectively, make a difference to somebody's life in that way.
Absolutely. And, people think that the RNLI, they think it's all about lifeboats, big lifeboats and small lifeboats, but it covers so much more. And lifeguards around the coast have become so much more of a big part of the RNLI's work. And there were people who were complaining that they weren't back on the beaches sooner this summer. But I don't think everybody realizes the level of training that they have to do and the very strict fitness tests that they have to pass every 4 weeks through the summer. So it wasn't a case of, hey, the beaches are open, let's get the lifeguards out. It was, let's get the lifeguards ready to do it properly. And of course, that's what happened. And they're out there now, which is great.
Of course. Yeah, no, I'm glad you make that point. You're obviously a very strong advocate for that part of the team, and I imagine it's a delicate balance as well, because once you know that there's people starting to enjoy the beaches again, you would want to cater for that risk element. However, once you put that team in place to monitor the beaches, it's almost like saying it's okay to be here at the beach, isn't it?
It is. Well, and the other thing that people don't always realize is that one of the main roles that they have, the lifeguards on the beaches, is the educational one. So they're not just going in when somebody's in trouble and getting them out of trouble. They are advising and educating about good practice all the time that they're there. And that, of course, is the role that I do in schools and in youth groups, and in fact adult groups too, as an education volunteer. We're there as much to save people from putting their lives in danger than to tell them about how we'll get them out of it. And education is key.
Absolutely.
And that main mission statement that we have is about saving lives on the water. It's about water safety, and we hope that our lifeboats don't get called out for situations which could have been avoided, and that's education.
And it starts very young. And in fact, I'm so glad you brought this element up, because my daughter actually enjoyed the summer school that the lifeguards put on. That was actually at Lowestoft, but she had a lot of fun. But like you say, whilst being educated, all about safety and meeting great people. She really enjoyed that. I very much doubt it'll go ahead this summer. But for anybody with children of almost any age, I'd highly recommend you search that up, the summer school of the RNLI lifeguards, because it's fun.
I absolutely agree. They are so good. And Liam Fail-Parr, who was very active on the Suffolk coast as a lifeguard himself, and he's moved up. He's got a senior position within the RNLI, and he was doing some great stuff in the early weeks of the lockdown. Wednesdays, I can't remember what he called it. It was some Wednesday RNLI Water Safety Day, and lots of youngsters were tuning in through Facebook with their parents and watch. They were just simple messages, the messages that we take into schools, and they were there from the RNLI through lockdown, which is just just good. Education, you can't beat it. I always tell the youngsters, and even the very young, that you can do something very special. You can save a life through knowing what the safe things are to do on the beach. And I often tell them, you possibly know more about water safety than your big brothers and sisters and your parents. And you must, play your part in keeping them safe. And I think all young children like to have that opportunity to do that. Yes, I see. Yes, Ben Southern's on there. Yeah.
Now, Albert, what I'm really interested in is how lockdown and the coronavirus has affected the crew and their ability to remain a strong team when they can't, because obviously it's also a very social thing, and like you said, it's almost a family, and with that in mind, people will get together socially, and without that element, it must be very hard for them to know that they could be called at any moment to jump out onto the lifeboat and save a life, but without being able to mix and get together in between times, it must be quite it must play on their mood quite.
Oh, it definitely has. And I mean, obviously they keep in touch through social media and the like, but the weekly training sessions are out of bounds. If they're called for a shout to go and do a rescue, then they meet outside the station in the car park and just go in socially distanced as far as they can, although it's obviously impossible to carry that through to the letter with the 2 meters side of things, and certainly on the boat and on the inshore boat. But there's no training, there's no meeting, and there's none of the social side of being there for the training either. And yes, it has been tough. They can't wait to get back, and I think there's a possibility of opening up for some level of training very, very soon, if not already. But it won't quite be going back to the normal. It will be a new normal to start with, but it will be a move towards it. I think there will be sort of onshore training. The education side of it, the sessions that they do without going to sea, may well start to get underway. But it's a good point you make, and we hear a lot about mental health awareness, and I'm not saying it's as strong as that, but certainly they're really missing that social side of it.
Of course, Albert, while we chat a bit further, I'm just going to flash up the website for RNLI, because obviously it is a charity. So anybody that's looking to make a donation can do so at rnli.org. But going back to what you're saying, Albert, obviously the crew are there for each other. They're there to hold each other up at times when maybe they need that little bit of extra support. And obviously in Gorleston, without going into too much detail, but in during this lockdown period, there's been a couple of devastating shouts that nobody would want to have to go to, and that's why I think it must have been so hard to want to be there for each other. And as you said,
absolutely,
they can be there for each other on social media and staying connected through messaging services. But once this is over or starts to ease a little bit and they can get back to some level of normality, whatever that may look like in future, I'm sure that well, I know for a fact, I know two of your crew very, very well. And they speak so fondly of you, Albert, and that's why we had to get you on for a chat this evening.
Oh well, it's a real pleasure to be on here. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
We've spoken on the phone, but the first time we've met, and I hope to meet you sort of face to face one day, not just through the streaming thing, but.
One other thing, if you've got, and that's not nice to meet Stephen. One other thing, if you don't mind us chatting about some of your other hats, because you were the chaplain to Norwich City Football Club for 16 years, was it?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Now I've heard it on good authority that you weren't a bad goalkeeper in your day either.
Oh, I don't know. Well, I played for Gorleston. That was my peak. I did, but I only played 5 games in the first team at Gorleston. My real level, where I feel I was in the top end of the Anglian combination. I played for a club that's no longer in existence called Ashley.
Right.
They were a great team. We played Wroxham in an Anglian Com senior knockout final. But when I tell you that I played for Gorleston, and I have to count back and believe it really is true. It was 50 years ago. 50 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
You look older. You must have been a boy.
I was a young teacher.
One other thing, actually, and again, it's another hat, but it's a fascinating hat. Is you actually contribute to Harbour Radio, our good friends at Harbour Radio. We know Nev and Stacey and Dave Eagle. Lots of people there. We know.
Oh, brilliant!
Really, yeah. So what if you don't mind me asking, what's your contribution there like?
Well, I'll just tell you how it started. It started about 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. I used to go on as a guest on a show, which was a Gorleston focused show. Mm-hmm. And the brief was I could talk about what I liked within that show as a guest. And Nev always said to me, he said, I think, you probably enjoy having your own show. And it was in... I said I would talk to him in the new year. That was the new year last year. And Neb phoned me on January the 1st. And he said, can we have that talk? I said, yes, when? And he said, tomorrow. And so we did. And I've been on having my own show since February last year. I do a weekly show. But I said I'm more interested in talking to interesting people. I'll play what I think is good music. And an interesting range, play requests and so on. But the heart of my shows is the conversations with my guests. At the moment, they're on the telephone.
Of course.
I usually have a guest in the studio. Thursday afternoons, 2 till 4 in conversation, 107.4 FM. But I think most people access us through Radio Garden, the Radio Garden app, which is great. You get really good reception on that. Right. And I had listeners last week. I won't go on and on about it, but I did have listeners last week in Bangalore and Jakarta using the radio app, Radio Garden. So they were through contacts, and Harbour Radio is brilliant. It's like I said, it's another family. And all the people you mentioned through involvement there have become good friends, which is great.
Yeah, they are lovely people. We've actually been we've been to Harbour Radio, and we've seen that map that tells you the pinpoints of where everybody is listening from, and it really is fascinating equipment.
And Albert, I'm just going to say we actually get some people listening in from far and wide. And last week I told Paul that we had somebody listening in from the Greater Antilles, and he said Jamaica, and I said I didn't make her at all.
No. Oh, love it. Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
Don't encourage him, Albert. It's been lovely to chat with you. So thank you so much for being our guest this evening. Before you head off, though, I just wanted to let you know that there's been some comments come in. One from one of our singers, Sandra Warner. She said, we need to go there and sing when we can. I think she meant the lifeboat station, but perhaps she means she's hoping for an invitation to Harbour Radio.
Oh, well, maybe we can talk about that. Certainly have come and talk about it all, and we'll see. Why not? Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to do that. Probably we're hoping to open up a little bit when we get into August, and because with the people coming into the studio, and that would be good. Why not?
Yeah,
come and do a show with me. Yeah,
there's only 30 or 40 of us singers, so it'll be a nice.
We'll see what we can do. We'll talk about the possibilities. Yeah,
social distance in a studio with all of us.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One other comment is from Linda Boyce, one of our newer regular viewers. She said, "Dave Eagle is my son." So I guess what I'd ask you to do is when you see the guys, Dave and Nev and everybody there, do say hello from me and Stephen, won't you?
I will do. I had Dave was quite chuffed because I did because I'm a governor at East Coast College as well, and Dave through Community Action Suffolk has done some work links with the college quite a bit, and he'd built a link with Harbour Radio from the Lowestoft campus, and I had on my show had a phone call with Holly Chase, one of the assistant principals, talking about all the volunteer work that's been going on from staff and students at the college during lockdown, and there was a suggestion that we build a link, with East Coast College and Harbour Radio, and I was able to say to the fellow governors and others, we already have that, because Dave Eagle has been working on it, and Dave is quite chuffed because we're going to be able to build on what he has already established and build further. He does great work out in the community.
He's a lovely guy as well. Yeah,
and he's a great bloke on Harbour Radio. Yeah.
Well, Albert, thank you so much. Keep yourself safe during these interesting times, and may the crew stay safe as well in their endeavours.
Absolutely, it's been an absolute pleasure to join you, and we'll keep in touch.
Will do. Take care, Albert.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that was the Reverend Albert Cadmore, or certainly in his capacity as the Reverend, but it sounds like an extremely busy guy. And he will not be defined, will he? He's a school governor, he's a college governor, he's an ex-teacher, he's a great footballer, he's chaplain to both RNLI Gorleston and previously also to Norwich City FC, and he's also a radio DJ. So thank you very, very much to Albert. And if you didn't catch all of his interview, don't rewind, because we're carrying on, but watch it again. Do catch it again, won't you? And look, Linda's embarrassed on behalf of Dave, but a nice embarrassed, saying such lovely comments. Thank you. Well, Linda, do you know what? We also know your daughter, Lisa, and she is lovely as well. So there you go. There you go. Small world. Okay, so I'm going to do I want to come to a comment that we had back from Gina Dunlap. I asked whereabouts she was based, and she said from Connecticut. I think Gina said that they do Fisherman's Wife as a song as well, and maybe it's slightly different. And she says, we're from Connecticut. Shipping News, which is the group she was in or is in, performed at Mystic Sea Music Fest, etc. That used to carry our CDs. Jan Lardner might as well. Long time ago now, enjoying the broadcast. Thank you, Gina. Now, I think Jan Lardner, I think we might know her from... Yeah,
sounds familiar.
Maybe you'd let us know, Gina. I think she runs the Chanty Cabin at various festivals, but we know her from Harwich and Harwich Shanty Festival and maybe a couple of others. So that would make sense, your comment in that respect, that she might have a copy. So anyway, yeah, we're in touch with Harwich, so we could make that happen. But thanks for clearing that up, and thanks for joining us from Connecticut. So I'm actually going to do a song, an American song. This is by a wonderful, fantastic folk musician called Dirk Powell. Dirk Powell. I know he sounds like a private eye in a noir thriller novel, but he's actually considered one of the leading Appalachian fiddle players. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to do it. This is not one that we have lyrics to share for, because it's not in our repertoire. I'm just going to have a sing of it, with apologies to Dirk. Because there's a few time signature changes in this, which I know I won't get right, but it'll be a unique version anyway. It goes like this. I went out late one night, the moon and the stars were shining bright. Storm came up and the trees come down. Tell your boys I was waterbound. Waterbound on a stranger's shore, river rising to my door. Carried me home to the field below. I'm waterbound, nowhere to go. Carved my name on an old barn wall, or no one would know I was there at all. Stables dry on a winter's night. If you turn your head, you can see the light. Black cat crawling on an old boxcar, rusty door and a falling star. Ain't got a dime in my nation's sack. I'm waterbound and I can't get back. It's I'm going and I won't be back. If you don't believe me, you can count my tracks. River's long and the river's wide. I'll meet you there, boys, on the other side. So say my name and don't forget, the water still ain't got me yet. Ain't nothing but I'm bound to roam. I'm water bound and I can't get home. Ain't nothing but I'm bound to roam. I'm water bound and I can't get home. Ain't nothing but I'm bound to roam. I'm water bound and I can't get home. Okay, Waterbound by Dirk Powell, fantastic American musician, certainly considered one of the leading fiddle players and experts on Appalachian music. Not such an old song, a great folk song, but not so old, maybe I think 2003, 2004, something like that.
It's really nice. And if you want to do some private investigation of your own, look out that song. Stephen did a wonderful version, but I'm sure it's good to have a look at some others too. Michelle Gallagher said, interesting interview with Albert. Thank you. I think that's mainly because he's such an interesting guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sandra Warner said, yes, what a lovely man. So we've clearly got some fans for Albert. We might have to have him on.
Are you sure Sandra wasn't talking about me?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because you're not a lovely man. But what you are is very talented. We've got 4 rounds of applause from Carly Franklin. Was that Moses or you that just...
Me.
All right. We've got 3 rounds of applause.
I'm not having this.
3 rounds. Having this, I am not. 3 rounds of applause from Marion Bouchette. And Kasia Marcinkovska says, lovely singing.
Oh, thank you, Kasia. That's very kind.
Anything about the guitar, but lovely singing.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I've got a message back for Kasia, and it goes like this: Vitami nanash transmishi. Let me know how bad that was, Kasia.
Okay. Janice Marjoram says, nah, forget that. It's a rubbish idea. I'm not sure what she means. But maybe she'll enlighten us.
Now, I'm actually going to go back because we did mention Gina's comment about where she was from or where her group was based, and that's Connecticut. And that was based on an earlier comment that Gina had made about a song that we did. And the song was Fisherman's Wife, also known as a Peterhead Fisherman's Wife, from this book, The Sang's the Thing by Sheila Douglas. And some of our ladies do this absolutely lovely. And we kind of learned it for a folk, a kind of a conceptual theatre stroke folk show that we curated and put together and featured some of the people within our shanty choir. And Paul went on to mention actually that we had with several wonderful people who are no longer with us. And in particular, we had a Scottish lady from the Moray Firth on the north coast of Scotland called Delia McLean. And she very sadly died a few years ago now. And she was a very, very well-loved member of our choir and our chorus. And very...
And the community really as a whole.
Absolutely, yeah. Very kind of infectious enthusiasm for the choir. And when she passed away, her son-in-law, Dan, actually wrote a poem on her behalf for us to use, and we haven't yet had the opportunity to use it in a show. Funnily enough, when people can actually do theatre shows, we usually do 1 or 2 a year, and they're often sellouts in our little theatre on the very east coast of Lowestoft. But we haven't yet had an opportunity to. So this is kind of a premiere. But I'm going to read it out, and this is the words of Dan Pavitt in memory of Delia McLean from November 1948 to August 2018, and it's called The Ship We Seek. The ship we seek, it has no wood, nor sail, or oar to row. Companionship and confidence, a friendship tree we grow. Our strength is in our love of song, we aim to share it round. Gather ye round with many a friend, the old, the sick, the young. Lift your hearts unto the stars and join in voice as one. Banish thoughts of loneliness, make many friends anew. We once less than we are now, perhaps we speak of you. For shanty singing is the cure of all ailments old and new. The only way to cure your blues, the rogue shanty chorus crew. So we thank Dan for writing that, and we remember Delia very, very fondly. So yeah. Anyway, that's that poem that we promised.
Thank you, Stephen. That was lovely. What we should say at this point is just a little bit of history as to, a little bit of context perhaps as to what the Rogue Shanty Chorus is. And Rogue Shanty Chorus is what we refer to when we talk about our rogues and our members, our usual gallery, usual suspects. Basically, we are a fishing choir from the most easterly town in the UK, which is Lowestoft. We meet as far
as you can go before you get your feet wet.
Very wet, yes. We meet at the Seagull Theatre for our usual fortnightly sessions. So I'm going to say hello to new members who have taken an interest since we started our lockdown broadcast all the way back on the 17th of March. And also a special hello to anybody joining us for the first time. But the warmest hello goes to, of course, our regular choir members, our rogues. We miss you very much, and we are very, very grateful to People's Health Trust that have enabled us to continue engaging with you in this fashion. It's not quite the way that we would prefer, as I mentioned on our fortnightly sessions, but this is perhaps the next best thing, and it means that we can still say hello and we can still manage to keep the community feel continuing. And also an added bonus is we've picked up some newbies along the way, and that's been a lovely, lovely thing for us to engage with new members that perhaps might join us. But also people across the world that we'll probably never have the chance to meet, but we're meeting virtually, and that's lovely for us too. The project is funded by People's Health Trust in the Active Communities Programme. They have enabled us to work with people of all ages, from 2 years old to 90 years young, from all abilities, experienced musicians to those just starting to explore their love of music and shanties. Now, we've been able to, as I say, continue this through the support of the People's Health Trust. But if you're enjoying this broadcast, please consider supporting us in other ways. There's a couple of ways you can do that. One way is to share the post on your timeline. That really does help us. It's very helpful to us that you're joining in and you're watching us at all, and especially when you're writing little comments. We love to know that you're out there and enjoying it. It doesn't have to be positive comments. If there's anything you want to suggest or you'd like us to change, we can try and accommodate that. You can also support us by making a donation at PayPal, www.paypal.me/onlinechoir. You can donate by debit card or PayPal, and the address is on your screen at the moment. We know times are hard, so any amount is very gratefully received. And I can assure you those amounts go directly towards keeping the Rogue Shanty Chorus singing, and hopefully we can sing together very, very soon. We've had a couple of comments in the meantime, mainly about that lovely poem by Dan. Carly Franklin said, "That is so lovely." And Michelle Gallagher, she said, "Beautiful words." They are indeed. He puts those words very well together. Dougie McInnes, he says, "I've really enjoyed it." We're glad you have. That just goes to show that sometimes our newest members really enjoy it. So thank you very much.
Hey, but don't go anywhere, Dougie. We haven't finished yet, mate. There's still a bit of time to go.
Yeah, and Linda Boyce says, "I hope the People's Health Trust realise how much joy you've given us during lockdown." Well, that's a lovely thing to say. And basically, they will only know through the comments of the good people like yourselves that are making comments.
So your comment is staying on screen for the next 20 minutes, Linda.
It is. We've boosted that.
Yeah. And I guess I just want to follow on a little bit from what Paul was saying about what we're doing here. And that is really to say that these kind of sessions have evolved out of the fact that when we had to suspend meetings of our shanty choir, that was based on mid-March, when it was announced that nobody could kind of really mix together in any way unless it was absolutely essential. We had to suspend the project, but we went online and we couldn't be together, so we've gone online separately. And the idea of that was to offer virtual rehearsals to people, because we knew that many of the people who normally come to our choir might be within the at-risk category, and they might also feel quite isolated, and we didn't want that. But they've kind of evolved into this kind of conversational style video podcast broadcast, and we've had some wonderful special guests, including Reverend Albert Cadmore this evening. And I don't know where I was going with this really. Oh yeah, where I was going with this was Paul and I lead our shanty choir. So we're normally up the front playing guitar, singing, and shouting at people to be quiet. But we do have a third person, wonderful guy called Andy, who is our percussionist. He plays cajon and lots of other instruments, and he keeps us all in time, literally. But Andy has not yet been able to join us. He's been unwell himself. It's not the Rona, but he has been a little bit unwell. One point, we hope to get him on here with us. He won't be able to play because we can't play together. Only one person can make music at any one time on this. But every single week, we seem to get a comment saying, "Miss Andy, where's Andy? Hope he's well." And we do hope he's well. And look, Sandra started it tonight. "Hi, Andy, where have you been? Missing everyone. Can't wait to get back." And then Andy replied, "Hi, everyone." And then Carly replied, "Hey, Andy." And then Andy replied, "Hi, Carly." So there you have it.
And we continued it. "Hi, Andy."
Yeah. But listen, Andy, we miss you. We've seen you socially distanced. I've managed to sort of say hello, but we miss you within the sessions here. And I know everyone misses seeing you. So I hope you're well, mate, and we'll speak soon. And I know when you can join us, everyone will be absolutely chucked to pieces. So anyway, should we do a song?
Yeah, I'm going to do a song. Now, this is actually in our repertoire, although most of our rogues won't know this. That's because our lovely singer, Sally, she solos this song. It's a wailing song. And by that, I don't mean I just wail at you. I mean, it's a lament to the whales of the whaling industry. It's called Farewell to Tarwathie, which is a small place in Scotland. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip of a drink while Stephen flashes up the lyrics.
Keep talking.
Yeah, I'm going to keep talking. Now, the lyrics are there. You may not know this song, and it's not a normal shanty. It's very much a ballad. And the lyrics are there primarily for me, but you're welcome to join in if and when you find it repeating enough to join in with it. As I said, it's called Farewell to Tarwathie. It's a beautiful song, all about the whaling industry, especially up in the northern part of the UK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn myself a little bit to read it from my iPad. So it goes like this. Farewell to Tarwathie, adieu Mormond Hill, and the dear land of Crimond, I bid you farewell. I'm bound off for Greenland, and I'm ready to sail, in hopes to find riches of hunting the whale. Farewell to my comrades, for a while we must part, and likewise the dear lass who first won my heart. The cold coast of Greenland my love will not chill, and the longer my absence, more loving she'll feel. Our ship is well rigged and she's ready to sail. The crew, they are anxious to follow the whale, where the icebergs do float and the stormy winds blow, where the land and the ocean is covered with snow. The cold coast of Greenland is barren and bare. No seed time, no harvest is ever known there. In mountain and dale, but there's no bird left in Greenland to sing to the whale. There is no habitation for a man to live there, and the king of that country is the fierce Greenland bear. And there'll be no temptation to tarry long there. With our ship under full, we will homeward repair. Farewell to Tarwathie, adieu Mormond Hill, and the dear land of Crimond, I bid you farewell. I'm bound off for Greenland and ready to sail in hope to find riches for hunting the whale.
Lovely. So, yeah, let's have a look at a couple of comments there. Michelle Gallagher, love this song, hauntingly beautiful. Cassian Marskin Koska, love this song. And by the way, at my Polish pronunciation, Cassia said this, not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah. So anyway, and then Steve Greenwood said, just have to stand up and sway in time. Yeah, true that.
I certainly was swaying in time.
Yeah.
Rosemary Balkett, she, just to give Sally her dues, always get goosebumps when Sally sings this. I think we all do. She sings it so well.
Yeah. So one of our ladies, as Paul said, one of the ladies in our choir, in our chorus, Sally Hardman, does a beautiful a cappella version of this with a key change, and it's as Michelle says, it is hauntingly beautiful, and it's available on CD of our Rogue Shanty Chorus. If you'd like a copy, I think they're about 10 quid, of which a portion goes towards the RNLI and also the Fisherman's Mission. And so you could get hold of a copy. We'd probably have to charge you postage and package, but you know, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, look, I'm going to do another song now. This is a song called Candlelight Fisherman, and I'm going to feature, this is a wonderful book. I dip into this regularly, by Bob Roberts, called A Slice of Suffolk. Bob Roberts was not a Suffolk guy, although he kind of became adopted by the Suffolk people. He lived in Pinmill, which is just off the Shotley Peninsula, which kind of bridges three pieces of water and is a notoriously difficult stretch of water to sail, but it kind of brings together Felixstowe and Harwich in towards Essex. And Bob Roberts was actually a famous song collector on behalf of Suffolk and other areas. Wonderful folk singer, great melodeon player, and a very, very well-known, very kind of jovial guy, very well-known, very well-liked, both in his native Devon, but also here in Suffolk where he settled because he married a Suffolk lady. But I'm just going to read this. This is a piece about this next song. And he says, there is an age-old difference between East Suffolk and West Suffolk. Under these names, the county is nowadays divided. This is when the book was printed in I think the 60s originally. And they rarely agree. Traditionally, what West Suffolk proposes, East Suffolk opposes. There is more in this than meets the eye. 1,000 years ago, East Suffolk was inhabited by rip-roaring Danish Vikings and pirates, whereas in the hinterland were Anglo-Saxon farmers, solid, peaceful, hardworking and respectable Christians. They regarded with disgust and dismay and some fear their drunken, fighting neighbours of the coastal areas. Go into a West Suffolk pub today and you will find a quiet atmosphere of friendliness and respectability. But in the East Suffolk coastal areas, where the wild North Sea governs people's lives to a large extent, you can have a riotous sing-song, a dance, and a punch on the nose for good measure anytime you like. I can certainly attest that that's true. Things don't change. Old times, new times, they're all the same in Suffolk. Suffolk dialect and forms of speech can be very difficult for the incoming stranger, such as myself. Old Anglo-Saxon and ancient Danish words and pronunciation can still be detected by a sharp-eared listener well-versed in these matters. The manner of expression is completely different from any other English dialect and at times may seem contradictory. A London yachtsman asking an old Pinmill seaman if he could let him have a barge's windlass handle for his houseboat was rather mystified, to be told. Due I ain't, I doubt I aren't soon find one up. The prefix do is pronounced due, is an order or an instruction, as in the old fisherman's song called The Candlelight Fisherman, which brings us on to the pronunciation of how this might be phrased. And this is a song that our choir do. It's number 42 in our repertoire, and they won't know that this is actually how it's sung. But the words in this, just see how the wind do blow. I'm going to sing it as do blow because I will just get confused otherwise. But if you follow the Roud Folk Index or you dip into there, it's Roud 1852. The ballad index is K219, 219. And it's considered a catalogue song, which kind of is an inference that it was a communal composition, or rather it was a staggered composition that maybe a song travelled and one county kind of put it on its feet with a verse or two, and it moved on via a seaman or a fisherman, and they might have added something else. As is often the case, we call that a mondegreen, slight lyrical variant. But this one particularly seems like a communal composition, so it's kind of been built upon, and there's a lot of kind of evidence within the archival recordings of East Anglian singers, folk singers and fishermen singing this. In particular, Phil Hammond, John Goodluck, Bob Roberts, obviously, Cyril Tawney, Jim Eldman, and more. And it's a rather comical song. It's about a fisherman looking for excuses not to get out of bed. If the wind is strong enough to blow his candle out, then it's too rough to go to sea. If it's not strong enough to blow his candle out, it won't fill his sails and he can't go to sea. So anyway, let's share the screen, because you might want to sing along, or at least understand what I'm singing. And this is it. My dad was a fisherman bold, and he lived till he grew old, till he opened the pane and popped out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. Till he opened the pane and popped out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. He often said to me, "You'll be wise before you go. Do you open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. Do you open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. When the north wind roughly blow, then I lay right snug below, and I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. And I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. When the wind comes from the west, it will blow hard at the best. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. Now a wind that's from the east is no good to man nor beast. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. When the south wind softly blow, it's not enough for you to go. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. My wife, she said to me, "We shall starve if you don't go." So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. So I open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow. So all you fishermen bold, if you'd live till you grow old, do you open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow, just to see how the wind do blow. Do you open the pane and pop out the flame, just to see how the wind do blow? So, Candlelight Fisherman, certainly the version that we use is lyrically and musically based on the collection or the archived collection by Bob Roberts. Wonderful, wonderful folk music collector, great guy, awesome skipper, and captain of the last Thames barge, the Cambria, which saw out its days on the Shotley Peninsula in Felixstowe, Harwich, Essex, depending on who claims it.
Nicely done. Applause from Marion Bouchette and applause from Maggie Clark. Sandra Warner says, well done. It's hard to sing.
I think that was in response to yours, Paul. Actually, that one.
Well, I certainly made it sound hard to sing. Ian Fossen,
Certainly made it hard to listen to.
yeah, Ian Fossen, a lovely guy, a good friend of mine, and an old boss, a very good one at that. He says, "Great broadcast, well done, chaps." He's actually a reverend himself. Maybe he knows Albert, and that's why he was watching tonight. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Ian. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, I should say, that last one Stephen sang, the Candlelight Fisherman, that was requested also by Carly Franklin on the last Shanty session.
I've been trying to do it for the last 3 sessions. Actually, we keep running out of time, so that was planned. That one. Yeah,
fantastic. What I did want to say is it's not just Carly that gets to choose, although we're very happy to fulfill her requests. But what I should say is anybody that wants to put in the comments section would be very, very welcome to do so. If you've got any special requests that you like yourself, you're more than welcome to. I can see we've still got Albert in the waiting room, and I should just let him know that he's very welcome to join us in that way, but he doesn't have to.
I think he's just listening along.
Hang on, I'm going to bring him back in actually because he's.
That's all I'm doing. I thought, no, I'm not going to just leave the studio. I'm going to listen in and see what you get up to.
Well,
I'm enjoying it. Yeah,
as long as you didn't feel trapped in there like Superman.
I didn't feel trapped at all. No, I unmuted, so I wasn't going to get caught out. But yeah.
Thank you,
or muted, and but I'm happily listening. So you carry on. Don't worry about it.
We'll relegate you back to the waiting room.
There you go. He's gone. I didn't mean that to sound like that. I just meant bye, Albert. So look, we've got a few more comments.
For anybody that wasn't sure, we'll just let them know that Albert Cadmore, the Reverend Albert Cadmore, was our special guest this evening, talking on behalf of RNLI Gorleston branch, and a very interesting chap he is, not just for RNLI, but he wears many hats indeed. Now we've had a thank you from Linda Boyce. She says thank you for another lovely evening. It's not over yet. Not by any means. We've got a little bit left to do.
We're just getting started.
Yeah. Martha Knox Forrester said something similar. Thanks for a great evening. See you next week. Well, thank you very much.
Don't go yet, Martha. Don't go yet.
Yeah, don't go yet. And I will say one last time, thank you very much to People's Health Trust for their ongoing support through lockdown to make sure we can stay connected with this lovely community. And our rogues, basically our existing rogues, our rogues that have found us along the way. And for anybody joining us for the first time tonight, I know a few people have. Now we need to clarify a few things. Don't forget, it's not too late to mention to us what your favorite line is from any shanty you like.
Actually, I'm going to go on to that because we've got you may not be able to see these, but we've got quite a few suggestions. Barry Irwin's I'm not going to read out, but Michelle Gallagher says Rosemary Bowkett says it's a damn tough life full of toil and strife. Yeah, that's up there for me, Rosemary. I love that one. Les says little silly racket. Carol Fisher, I think she put this before we did it as well. Who would be a fisherman's wife?
She did.
Yeah, Maureen Meadows says with me, roo rum rah. Exactly, yeah. And that's one. Yeah. Steve Greenwood says, very good. Yeah, I get that. And then Roger Leeton says, oh, you pinks and posies. Yeah, that's a great line. That is wonderful. Yeah. Okay. So
we'd better disclose what our Suffolk word means. Now we have a little segment of these broadcast sessions every week called "How You Heard It, Boy," and we take Suffolk words and phrases from this book by Edward Moore of the same name. These are words and phrases from the late 19th century, from the late 1800s. That go back way beyond that still. It's a very old book, and Stephen's lucky enough to have a copy, and he has picked a word for this evening called teent. Now, Steve Greenwood, bless you, sir, you are having some trouble putting the word teent in. But we are going to clarify, or Stephen is, what it means. We've had a few suggestions along the way. Mainly, people are thinking, does it mean it isn't, or it ain't, or tiny? Stephen's gone. He's absolutely gone. This happens a lot on gigs. Stephen, could you clarify once and for all, what does the Suffolk word or phrase of teent mean in regular parlance?
Okay, well, there is a reference. There is a reference to another word which I'll find. I could have done beforehand, really, but
while you're doing that, I'm gonna give a big shout out to our Monday night sessions. We have our resident historian, a lovely local legend to Lowestoft. His name is Ivan Bunn, and he really knows his stuff. So if you're interested in history, or you're interested in Lowestoft, or you just want to try something new, remember every Monday evening we are joined by the fabulous historian Ivan Bunn. Last night was our most recent session. There's plenty more that you can access. Just go onto our Rogue Shanty Chorus Facebook page and they'll all be there ready to lap up.
Yeah, so yesterday was number 7 for Ivan. We've done 7 so far. 8 is booked in for next Monday, and 8 is the second part of Old Kirkley, south of the bridge, which if you know Lowestoft, you'll know what Kirkley is. If you're not local and you don't know Lowestoft at all, still extremely fascinating looking back at the history of it and how it informed in many ways modern Lowestoft today. But you can see all of those, as Paul said, on Watch Again on both Facebook and also many of them recently on YouTube. But anyway, let's do this word. The word is teent, T-E-E-N-T. And Edward Moore says, very simple, this one. Normally they come with a long explanation, and it is not. Teent means it is not. So actually, I think a lot of people were very close to it. I wonder if maybe it still is in kind of common parlance in Suffolk, or certainly to people of a certain age that might remember their predecessors using the word. But there is a reference as well to another word. It says see eent. So the same thing, but without the T on the front. And eent is a Suffolk colloquialism, certainly from the early to mid 19th century, which means am not, is not, I ain't, he ain't, she ain't, they ain't, and so on. Teent, it is not. So there you go. A lot of people who guessed that actually guessed very close, if not bang on. So well done. You get nothing. It's no Mars bars, no CDs, but still, it's all good fun, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all good, clean fun too, mostly.
Yeah.
Now, I'm my last song tonight is not a shanty in any way. It's an old folk song, and it's one that's interested me for some time. Now, if you're of a certain age, like my age, which is nearly 40, you might remember this song. Yeah, you might remember this song from the mid-90s by a Swedish pop group called the Rednecks.
Oh, yeah. I know.
Oh, yeah. Now we're talking pop pickers. Now, in fact, that song was, in my opinion, not very good, but it certainly sold well, and it became a big hit. I was never a fan of it until... Say again?
They speak highly of you.
Yeah, they speak quite highly.
Yeah.
Now, I heard a version by Nina Simone from the late 60s, and I had no idea it went back that far. So I had a little bit of a dig. The song is called Cotton-Eyed Joe. It's a traditional American country folk song, popular at various times throughout the United States and Canada, although today it's mostly associated with the American Southeast. It has inspired both a partner dance and more than one line dance. The origins of this song are unclear, although it predates the 1861 to 65 American Civil War. American folklorist Dorothy Scarborough, who lived 1878 to 1935, noted in her 1925 book that several people remembered hearing the song long before the war. Scarborough's account of the song came from her sister, Mrs. George Scarborough, who learned the song from workers on a plantation in Texas, and she learned other parts from a man in Louisiana. The man in Louisiana knew the song from his earliest childhood and had heard slaves singing it on plantations. Both the dance and the song had many variants. American publishing house Harper and Brothers published the first printed version of the song in 1882. It was heard by author Louise Clark Purnell, and that was heard on the Alabama plantation of her father when she was a child, and the version was republished in 1910. That's the version I'm going to sing tonight. As I said, it's called Cotton Eye Joe. Now, the cotton eye part of it seems to refer to the white discoloration of the eye that occurs when drinking the wrong kind of alcohol, more like the ethanol. and it's basically a poison, and it tended to be very prevalent in America, specifically the Southeast, throughout the American Civil War period. Excuse me. And as I said, it was not healthy at all, and it tended to turn people blind. And the phrase that it was referred to was cotton-eyed, and that seems to be where the title of this song comes from. Cotton-eyed Joe, Cotton-eyed Joe, why do you make me serve me so? For to take my gal away from me and see her plumb to Tennessee. If it hadn't been for Cotton-eyed Joe, I'd have married my girl long ago. His eyes was crossed and his nose was flat. His teeth was out, but what about that? For he was tall and he was slim, and so my gal, she followed him. If it hadn't been for Cotton-eyed Joe, I'd have married my girl so long ago. No gal so handsome could ever be found, not in all of this country around, with her kinky hair and her eyes so bright, with her lips so red and her teeth so white. If it hadn't been for Cotton-eyed Joe, I'd have married my girl so long ago. And I loved that girl with all of my heart, and she swore from me we'd never part. But then with Joe she ran away and left me here to weep all day. If it hadn't been for Cotton-eyed Joe, I'd have married my girl so long ago. Cotton-eyed Joe. Well, let's leave it there because I can't get the lyrics proper.
Very good. Okay, so I think we're done actually. A few comments just to bring up on screen. Thank you for tonight from Sue Day. Maggie Clark, many thanks Stephen and Paul for a lovely evening once again. Jackie Jober says, thank you, Stephen, Paul, and Albert. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful to chat to Albert, and fascinating guy and very, very busy man as well. Much appreciated. So thank you. Look, picking up on the word there, Sandra Warner says, in Hertfordshire, we say taint. It isn't. Kasia Marcinkovska, didn't know that one. Love it. Yeah, so if you're not up on your 90s dance music, Kasia, or British 90s dance music, you might have missed it. And even if you did know it, you certainly might not have known, like me, that it was originally a pre-American Civil War song. Janice Marjoram says, thank you. Charlie Moore says, love that, Paul. Clap, 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 clap. 4, in fact. And yeah, look, Carly Franklin, have enjoyed it once I got on. Michelle Gallagher, wonderful evening. Thank you, guys. Yeah, well, look, listen, thank you very, very much. And I think we're done, Paul, but we're back again next week, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Andy Marr, our wonderful friend and wonderful percussionist that manages to keep us on time. He said, nice one, guys. Well, nice one yourself, Andy. We can't wait for you to join us and have a little chat. The people out there I know are gagging to hear how you are, and just to hear your voice, really.
Yeah, and I guess it's ironic he keeps us in time, considering that whenever we have a gig, he's always late for it.
He's never late to the bar, is he?
No. Carol Fisher, like that version. Thank you for tonight. And Rosemary Balkett, thanks to you both and Albert for the excellent work he does. Yeah, I think we second that, Rosemary. Thank you to Albert. Wonderful work, and also to the RNLI. So he keeps them on the straight and narrow so they can look after everybody else. Steve Greenwood, look forward to next week, everyone. Thank you very much. Look, we're not just going to keep going on about how brilliant you think we are, but if you want to keep typing it, you can do. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, look, I think we're done. So we're going to say thanks very much, and we're back next week.